Hello and welcome to Peakz Podcast, where we take a quick break from the hike of life and appreciate the view. Today, we have a very special guest. Her name is Mary Krause. She is a culinary critic and also is a spokesperson and a wonderful person that gives 100% in everything she does. Welcome to the show.
Hi, nice to be with you today, my three budding entrepreneurs.
So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, I was born and raised in Iowa. People always say when they meet me, "You're not from Utah, are you?" And I don't know what they're thinking, but they're not thinking I'm going to say Iowa. And they're like, what? I was born and raised in a small town, about 250 people. I came west to go to school and graduated and then never left. I love it here. I've traveled to every state in this country and 40 different countries outside. And I've never found any place I'd rather be than right here, even with all of our quirks and foibles.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So at age 30, I started a company called Culinary Crafts. And I started in my condo with $150 to our name. I mean, it's not like we had $150 to start the business. We had $150 and grew it from there to be this kind of miracle. We're now the largest catering company in the state and like 26 times best of state. We've been International Caterer of the Year, probably more awards than just about any other company in this state.
Yeah.
And a lot of people ask me, did you envision that you'd start there and you'd ever end up over here? And I tell them the same thing every time. Absolutely. Because if you don't dream it, if you don't envision it, it's never going to happen. Just like the three of you, you're here. People would say to you now, when you are world-class broadcasters and you're around the globe doing all these things, and they'll say, did you ever think that like from that little podcast you did that you'd be here? And you'll say to them, absolutely, because that's why you're doing this. And that's what gave you the courage to step forward. And so I really did. Not that it was easy. It was probably, I retired 3.5 years ago when I was 65. And I'll tell you what, that was 35 hard years. And some of you have worked for my company, for my children now. And you know what hard work it is.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. How'd you like to do that for 35 years? But I loved every minute of it because I loved what I did. I loved serving people. I loved being creative with food and the menu portion. I loved, making everything look beautiful. I loved trying to get inside people's head and understand what is it they want of this evening. And then from there, I would just go about trying to create it. I discovered things about me I never knew. I always thought I could copy creativity, but I didn't think I was creative. But then one day I just stood back and looked at this buffet and said, this looks awful. What does it need? And then you think, okay, well, let's elevate this. Let's put a drape over here. We should add flowers here, design it. And I began to trust myself. And I think that's one of the biggest things that when I talk to young kids, that you have to learn to trust yourself and to not think that you've got to believe that you innately are enough. It took me 50 years of my life to realize that. And if I have a reason for being on this podcast, my reason is I don't want any of you to have to wait 50 years to discover your greatness. And I was already had a great company. I was already very successful at 50. But inside, I still believed I wasn't enough. Inside, I was always still afraid. So many fears, fear of failure, fear of not having enough money, a fear of being laughed at, a fear just crazy numbers of fears, a fear that someone wouldn't pay me and I would go broke. And those fears that we lay down at your age travel with you. They don't suddenly go away when you graduate from high school. They don't go away when you graduate from college. They don't go away with your first job. Mm-hmm. If you get married, if you have children, In fact, oftentimes, if you don't begin to deal with them, they get worse. They get bigger.
Yeah.
And then it's living in crescendo the wrong way. Your fears are like this because you've never dealt with them. So success is not enough to bring those fears to an end. You really, at some point in your life, have to face them. And either you're just going to keep walking around them, or you're going to go through them and become something different, which is what I do now. So after I retired,
yeah.
After I retired, I decided, okay, well, if I'm going to live to be 105, which is what I'm thinking, with an option to renew, I'm not going to spend that many years just playing golf and, baking cookies for the neighbors. I needed something else to do, something that was really going to get me up in the morning, the way that business had. Mm-hmm. And I decided my goal in life was to really help others overcome those fears that I now had overcome. 18 years, 15 years later, it took me really a long time to kind of deal with all of them and let go of them. And I want to help people do that earlier in their life. I want people to do that when they're your age, and to know that that's possible. And I've recently kind of started, I have a podcast. Did you know I have a podcast?
Yes, we heard
I
about
have a podcast. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's called Crafting a Meaningful Life. And just because it's not too late ever or early ever to start thinking about crafting your own life, what you want your life to look at. And right now, it's easy to think at your age, what do I want my life to look like career-wise?
Yeah.
Then you may be able to look down the road just far and say, well, what do I want my life to look like with my pronouns? Mm-hmm. Or maybe you look down the road far enough to say, well, what do I want my family to look like? And maybe where do I want to live? And that's you can look down there. But I don't know if people at this age are looking to, how am I going to get through all of these fears that I have laid down in my life?
Yeah.
How am I ever going to get through all of these fears that I'm worrying about what people are thinking about me?
Yeah.
How am I really ever going to get rid of that thing about checking how many likes I have on my social media? Yeah. When am I going to let go of that? I don't know if they're thinking about that at this age. And I hope that your podcast offers them some ideas and insights into how that can happen.
Thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate it. So for our very first question is from
Yeah. So yes. So you told me that you went to Ukraine. Could you tell us more about like what you did there, or why you went there?
What I did and why are kind of maybe two different things, but so I'll try and do them both quickly. In January of this year, so it's only been about 12, 14 weeks, I really had a different clarity of what I was to be about in the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't about necessarily just crafting a different life for me or a better life for me. I began to get an idea about this, that it really is possible. I know this is going to sound like I'm kind of in the lunatic bin, but that it really is possible to begin to bring about oneness on this planet. And that isn't when we're all rubber stamp cookies. I don't want us all rubber stamp cookies. Heavens, I would probably shoot myself if the whole world was full of Mary Crafts. I mean, seriously. but in our differences, we find unity. And it's not us and them and separateness, because that's what the world is teaching right now. Instead, it's we. And together, because of our differences, can bring about oneness. So I really am processing that every single day. Every day when I get up in the morning, I feel like I'm learning new things and thinking new things. And I wonder, did I dream that, or where'd that come from? Or, anyway, so in the middle of that, here we are 8 weeks after that. I see on the morning news that Russia has invaded Ukraine. And an old man is standing in front of one of those Russian tanks with his hands up on the tank, just like saying, you're not coming into my country. And the tank just comes closer and pushes him a little more. So finally he lays down right in front of the tracks. And they're edging forward because they're thinking inside, they're scared to death too. they don't want to kill this man, but what? They're afraid. What happens if we don't? Do we look weak? Will we be killed? We've got to move forward. And you're head to head. And his friends pull him out from under the tank just as that last tread is ready to come down upon him. And I thought to myself, you just need more hands on the tank. I'm coming. I'm going to put my hands there with you. I'm one with you. You are one with me. We can stand together. And so I first had crazy ideas like, okay, I'm going to put this out on social media. I'm going to get 5,000 people virtually to meet me in Poland. We're going to walk across the border and we are going to just like find all these tanks and put our hands on them. Okay, that's the dreamer part of me. The realistic part of me said, how can one make a difference? And I wear this, it's my talisman. I wear it every day. And Armani knows about this. And this is a single European euro that has the number 1 cut out. And what it reminds me every day is that I am only one, but one is enough to make a difference. So I bought my ticket to go into one of the northernmost ports that airports of Romania.
Right.
And I was to leave in a week. 3 days before I left, I got a call from Delta that said, we've discontinued flights there. It's too dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, okay. So what do I do now? Maybe I fly into Warsaw and I just walk to the border, which it's a long walk in case you didn't know. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know, but I have to go. I just had this thing inside of me. And then I got a call from a friend of mine who works in a foundation. She founded it and is the president of Exodus. And she said, Mary, do you want to go with us? I go, yeah. That they were rescuing orphans and that they were helping refugees at the border. And she said, you won't actually be in Ukraine, but you'll be right on the border and working in the refugee camps. And I'm like, I'm there. I'm coming. When are you leaving? And she said, tomorrow. I said, okay, let's go. And so the flight was a red-eye flight. And by midnight the next night, I was flying out. I flew out to Bucharest. And then from there, 9 of us crammed into a minivan and headed north to the border and worked there at the border and then on some of the refugee camps, went into Moldova. And I came home with so many lessons, but here are just a couple. I stayed with just local people. There are no hotels in these places. No. Hi, where's the closest Marriott? No, not like that. And people were just opening up their homes. And they opened them up to volunteers like us and the refugees. And we came in and we slept on their floors. And they would make us all that they had, broth and bread, B&B. We'd call it B&B. Time for B&B again. Every day. And they would make it for the refugees that were there. And they'd take it over to the churches and over to the schools and everything that had been transformed into these refugee camps. And they had nothing. But that didn't matter. They gave everything. There was no longer us and them, the Ukrainians and the Moldovians. They were standing together. And that was incredible to me. And the borders were closed to Ukrainians when I was there. We didn't allow refugees. I didn't know that when I first got there. I learned that. Like, what? What happened to give me you're tired, you're poor, you're huddled masses yearning to be free? I've seen those masses now. What about that? Since then, of course, they've opened up those borders to 100,000 refugees. We probably need to take about 500,000. We need to open those up. There are over 4 million of them. Now, some of them are just waiting, hoping to go back. But a lot of them know there's nothing to go back to. In America, we hear about the Russians retreating from a city. We think, oh, they're retreating. We've won. The war is over. They're retreating because there's nothing left. There's nothing left for them to kill and destroy. Water systems, electricity, sewer, everything. People are gone or dead. So then they leave that city. Looks like retreat, but instead it's just conquered and destroyed. And moving on to the next place. So the war is far from over. And we have so much yet to do. So my battle cry continues to be oneness. I am them and they are me. And I want to go back in May. And that's the long answer to a short question.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for telling us about that. It's just amazing the service that you were able to help those in need over there.
Yeah, thanks.
So also a while ago, you told me that I should always like fit at least 30 minutes to an hour into my day-to-day schedule to go to the gym. And I was in my mind, I was kind of wondering why was that important? But then I was like, well, I mean, obviously to keep your health up, but I mean, what is that to you? Like, what keeps you motivated?
Yeah. I think a lot of people ask me for the silver bullet, the golden key to fitness and weight loss. Because as you know, part of my story, Armani, is that at age 50, I weighed 284 pounds and I was 45% body fat. And I had yo-yo dieted my whole life. I'd gone to the gym off and on, and I'd get eaten good off and on. But until you deal with the real causes, which is, I don't know if you've guessed it yet, but it's that drum beat that I'm constantly drumming, and that is fear. Fear keeps us stuck so many places, and weight is one of them. It lays down a protection where if you're afraid of something, what better thing to lay down a protection of than this huge fat barrier between you and the world, or you and where you work, or you and your husband, or you and anyone, your siblings. And until you deal with that piece, it's hard to have permanent weight loss and permanent health and fitness. There is an incredible connection. This is the important piece about that. There's an incredible, unbreakable connection between your mind and your body. And your body is just a reflection of your mind. And your mind is a reflection of your body. So if you choose to take care of yourself and you choose to muscle up just 30 minutes a day to say time is the greatest gift, because it's a finite amount. Time is it. So time is the greatest gift you can give to a person. That's why I do outings with my grandchildren instead of giving them a gift. It's the greatest gift.
Yeah.
Why don't you ever give that to you? You should give you the greatest gift. And if you want to convince your mind that you're ready to change and that you want to be committed to a different life, have your body begin to get in alignment and start moving 30 minutes a day. And your mind is going to go, what you doing? What are you doing, girl? What are you doing at this gym? You don't belong here. This is not your place. Yeah. But after a while, it's just like, okay, I get this. You're committed.
Yeah.
All right. I'm on board.
Yeah, that's amazing. So my question to you is kind of going back to the beginning of the interview. You said that you created Mary Crafts and it became this huge thing in Utah, this huge successful business. And I was just wondering, like, how did Mary Crafts come to be?
Mary Crafts is my name. The name of my company is Culinary Crafts. So it's a little bit different. A lot of people say, did you change your name to go with your company? No. I made the company name to go with mine. Okay. So the reason I started the company, I didn't think I was ever going to be an entrepreneur. I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. I went to school and graduated in social work just because I thought I needed a degree. I never really thought I'd use it. And then when I realized that life was not as I had dreamed it, that life was tough. And my husband, I was married 28 years, and he's the father of my 3 children. And because of him and because of the struggles I experienced in that relationship, I am who I am today. So no regrets, no sadness, but a big thank you for those lessons. But I began the company because I wanted to feed my family. I went kicking and screaming down the road of entrepreneurship. We were on welfare at the time. And I knew that's not where I wanted to stay and not where I wanted to live. and that he was probably never going to be able to hold down a full-time job. So it was me. And I guess I believed in myself enough to believe I could. I wanted, one, a job that would earn me enough money to support my family. Two, I wanted one that I could do and not have to put my two tiny babies, Ryan and Caleb at the time were 1 and 3. I didn't want to have to put them in daycare. So I thought, I like to cook. I wonder if I can cater. And that's how it began. I began selling cookies and bread and things, pulling those two boys around the neighborhood in a little red wagon. And let me trust you, if you're ever short on money, grab 2 small children, put them in a little red wagon.
Yeah.
Go around the neighborhood. And whatever you're selling, people will buy it.
Yeah. It's very smart.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Also, so you mentioned that like social media was having like a toll on kids, like mental health and what they're thinking about themselves. So I wanted to know, what's your opinion on like social media nowadays and how it's used?
For me, social media can be such a great platform. And I follow so many great people that give me wonderful thoughts and inspiration every day. Like Jay Shetty. If you don't follow Jay, you should follow him. Okay. He just has a little video every single day that I go, damn, that's a great thought. I'm gonna put that in my life. And I love that. It gives me a chance to talk about my podcast. It gives me a chance to talk to people about different ideas and ways they can be of service. I'm in this organization. We just went and did this. We did all this over here. And people like begin to get excited about being of service in our community. So it's a great thing for me. Well, that's me at 68. But I see women, it's not just affecting your generation. It's affecting my generation, who all they want to do once they post something is spend the entire day to seeing if they have one more like. And well, no one liked that. I only have 4 likes. I delete that post. I mean, it's your life. You want to delete your life? You put your life in there. And I also think one of the good things about social media is it gives us an opportunity to get to know each other and stay connected. I'm from Iowa. I'm connected with people who live back there now. My brothers and sisters who are around the country. There's so many great things about social media. I don't want to say, ban the whole thing. It's not that. But we do need to spend time teaching and teaching our children of how to not get their self-worth from that.
Yeah.
And all the horror stories that you hear about people who have taken their lives because someone bullied them or made fun of them on social media. Parents really do have to step in. They really do have to be involved. And I think it has to be something in an open platform that's probably talked about, if not daily, at least weekly, within your families, at school, open forums where you really get to share and be vulnerable. And I think that the answer to this, of course, is oneness. And I'll tell you how that works. Okay. So it's like this. If in order to be one, I have to be naked. Now, I'm not talking about physically naked. I'm talking about emotionally naked. Because if I am constantly hiding who I am, how can I be one with anyone?
Yeah.
And for so long, I was afraid to show who I was because I knew if anybody knew really about me, they wouldn't want to be my friend. They wouldn't like me because I had this horrible thought about this or this horrible thought about that. And what I learned along the way, this is the amazing thing. The things that I was most afraid about showing, the things people loved about me the most. And why? Because they saw themselves in me.
Yeah.
And they could see that. And so the more vulnerable we are and the less perfect we need to appear, the more we step away from the likes and just share love on social media. It's a long journey. And I know the 3 of you are a part of that. And that's why you get the thumbs up from me.
Thanks. Appreciate it. So you're this really successful person in a lot of things, in public speaking and teaching and culinary. And so who are your biggest mentors in your life?
Okay. When I was first starting my company, my biggest mentor was Julia Child, of course, because she had started at age 40. She was a little later in life. She didn't know she loved to cook, and she discovered that she was. And she went on, she had this great national TV show, and I wanted to have a TV show, and I ended up with a PBS TV show. And she had this tremendous dry sense of humor, and she wasn't particularly a gorgeous woman, but people loved her. They loved watching her on her impeccably clean spoon. Now we shall do this, And I just thought she was so real and so open. And that one episode that she cut herself on, and then they turned it into a Saturday Night Live gig, and with blood squirt and everything. I mean, that's classic, right? But that's classic Julia Child. She just kept right on filming and just wrapped a towel around her head. It was just going on. And so she was my mentor in culinary world for a long time. Yeah. And then I began to think about like business women, like people who were what I considered great business women. And I tried to find women. There weren't a lot of them, but I found a contemporary one. Yeah. And kind of in my age group, we had to be contemporaries because there weren't a lot in the age before me. And so in my age, it was Oprah. Oprah and I are almost the same age. And we started our companies almost the same time. And I really liked how she started off as this provocative talk show host. And now she's turned herself into her own think tank. Yeah. She has her own way of thinking, and she teaches that. And I didn't really think about it at the time, but now that I look back, I'm like, dang, I'm Spanish pork you so up Oprah. and I kind of love that. And nowadays, this is the most important one. Nowadays, my greatest mentor is me. And I know that sounds crazy, but each one of us inside of ourselves, if we believe in this kind of infinite process of life that we lived before this little short term, and we're probably going to live after this short term, that means we came with a lot of knowledge. And somebody has access to what's going on that side. Yeah. And who more likely to know about me than me? Yeah. So I do a lot of meditation where I really quiet my mind and I listen. I listen to myself and what I want to teach me, what I've learned, what I have yet to learn. And right now, even though there are many people who guide me now and speak to me, I have to say I'm my own greatest mentor. Yeah. I want to be her when I grow up. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. So I heard about in everything you do, if you set your mind to something, you like to give 100% in everything. So why is it important to give 100% in the stuff we do in everyday life?
Okay, I want to make sure that we're clear about bringing 100% of your very best self versus perfectionism. Because I believe perfectionism will kill you. Yeah. But excellence and bringing your very best every day will inspire you. And you'll get out of bed thinking, what does my best look like today? And I actually look at that every single day. I think, what's your best look like today, Mary? Do you take a long time in the morning and lounge around now that you're retired? You don't have to get to work in the morning. You don't have any kids at home, just sit and watch the news for a while. What's bringing your very best day today if you look like? And then that begins to motivate me through my day. And I begin to think, well, it's getting up, it's getting dressed, having breakfast, taking my vitamin pills, and going to the gym. It's connecting with people who matter to me to see how they are. It's writing some in a book I'm writing. It's doing lots of different things. It's connecting with people. It's stopping to visit my grandchildren. That's what it looks like now. But whatever it is, it's my very best. Now, I'll tell you, some days my very best doesn't look very great. People say, is that your best? Yeah, this is it today. This is all there is. This is my best. I'm doing it. Okay, you got that? This is my best. Because our best varies from day to day.
Yeah.
One day you might have had a crappy day, or somebody just broke up with you at school, or you got a low grade on a test, or your mom yelled at you last night. Not that your mom would ever yell, but that your mom yelled at you last night, or something didn't go right, and you wake up and you're just in a little bit of a slump.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Just bring your best. And by keeping that in your mind and asking yourself, don't use it as an excuse to bring less than. But if you ask yourself, is this my best? And some days you just have to say, yeah, this is all I got until about noon. And the other days you go, no, even though I'm having a crappy day, this is not my best. I want to bring more.
Yes. Amazing. Also, you have a couple upcoming appearances at some events. One of your events that you'll be showing up as a keynote speaker is the, Living Our Best Life. And so we were wondering, what can you tell us about what that event's about and what is your role?
I love to speak. Some people, it scares them to death. It's like the thing that they're the most frightened of. That's not with you guys. You got this. Okay. But some people, if you ask people, the number one fear is public speaking. I don't know if you knew that. That's the number one fear. Not for you, not for me, but for some people. For me, it's like, I don't know. It's like riding a bicycle. I love it. And started when I was just little. I was in 4-H and I used to give food demonstrations to my little club. And I thought that was the most fun thing. And I've still kept that. And I put myself out there as being able to speak to people. And I have more and more opportunities this month. You're right, I have 4 opportunities. And so this is a fundraising event. It's in Iowa. I'm going back home.
Yeah.
They're going to have the Merry Returns. And they're doing a scholarship event to raise money to award 3 scholarships for college to people who will be the first generation college attendees.
Yeah.
And I can't be happier to go back and speak and help raise money for that. I have another speaking event coming up called Speak Up, and it's here in Utah, and it's going to be freaking amazing. Because Marianne Williams, I don't know if you know who she is, but if you don't, you should look her up. She was Oprah's recommendation for the presidential candidate in 2020. Okay, so she's freaking amazing. And she's going to be here. And then Crystal Bayat, who I've gotten to know very well. Crystal, of course, is the refugee from Afghanistan that was shot in the head for speaking up for women. And now she continues to fundraise to save those women.
Yeah.
I just recently posted a video that she gave me of Afghan women beaten with sticks now. 20 years of work gone in a moment, in a flash with the Taliban. And women were having jobs. They didn't have to cover their faces anymore. They still, out of respect, covered their heads. They were able to go to school. Mm-hmm. They could speak in public before they couldn't even open their mouths in public. All those things were become, and now it's gone, just like that, gone. And she gave me a video of the town men gathered around and beating a woman with sticks. Like, what country is that? Where do we live? Where does oneness enter into that? What's in the hearts of those men? And we see the brutality of women so many places around the world. Just turn on the news and see what's happening in Ukraine with all those soldiers. And when they left, what they've left. Dead women or mutilated women. So when I have a chance to use my voice to speak up, I'm all about it.
Yeah. And I think that every single person should follow that and find their voice as well in public speaking and standing up as one. So yeah.
3 Peakz is one.
Yeah. So thank you so much. We're gonna move on to our final question, and it is usually
the most important question.
Yes, the very big question.
Okay.
So the big question is, what advice would you give to the younger generations that are growing up in this world at the moment that need advice to get them going on a path of greatness, or just to help them see a bit the bigger picture or find some new meaning into life?
I've been asked this question in a little bit different format. What would you tell your 15-year-old self?
Yeah.
And I've given that question a lot of thought, of who I was at age 15 and all the fears I had and how I was so afraid of what people thought of me. I was so afraid of walking into school and have people laughing at me. I was afraid of not having friends. I'd sell my soul to have friends. And what I would say to myself is, Mary, you don't know this yet, but you're already great. Not that you're going to be, you're already great. And here's another secret. You end up being quite the badass. So believe it. Believe in yourself. And these are things you don't see yet. But as your older self, I can tell you, it's in you.
Yeah.
And right now you're struggling to believe that you are enough, that you will ever be enough, and that you're going to fight this fight of being enough until you die. You don't have to, because you already are.
Thank you so much for that. All right. Well, we just want to say another thank you from each one of us for coming onto the podcast and spending time with us and just having a great old time.
Yeah. Well, I love it. And I love your family. I was really honored that you picked me. Yeah. It's kind of a like a feather in your cap that I got picked to be on a young audience, and they thought somebody would listen to me.
Yeah. So that's all we have for you guys on the Peakz Podcast. We hope you guys tune in to more episodes coming soon, and we'll see you hikers later.